Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Eve, and as you can see, Claudia is with me from Knits for the Soul, and that means it's buddy read time. We are talking about our April buddy read, which was Blood Queen by Joanna Courtney, and this is a Shakespearean retelling. Claudia will tell you
exactly. Yeah, so Joanna Courtney is a new to me author. I think for you too. Yeah. So The Blood Queen is the first in a trilogy about Shakespearean queens. This is about Lady Macbeth. Then the second book I really would like to read is The Fire Queen, which is about Ophelia. And then there is The Iron Queen in the third book, which is about Cordelia from King Lear. She has also another trilogy about not so often read about or written about queens from the Middle Ages, which seems really, really interesting. And I have my eyes on them as well. In The Blood Queen, though, we enter, well, early medieval Scotland, or Alba as it was called then, and meet the fate of two women from this time. So there is first Cora. She is, or she will be, Lady Macbeth. And then there is Sybil, who will be some kind of her adversary. And yeah, the Queen of Scotland, or Alba, before Lady Macbeth. So yeah, you're way better than in summarizing that. Joanna Courtney did a lot of research for this, and the appendix in this book was, to my mind, even more interesting than the book itself. I really have to say that. And I also checked out her website and read more about her research about this particular book. We stumble into a Scotland where we don't have a royal line where you just inherit the throne, but where it is reversed. So you have two bloodlines from one king. So there is the Constantine line and the Aid line, regarding according to the sons that split that up, and each line is just supporting one king at a time. So you have a king of the Constantine line, which at this moment is Malcolm, and then when he would die, an heir from the Aid line would become the next king. The precipice of the story is that Malcolm wants to direct his line as an inheritable line for the throne of Alba, and not split it up between the two families. That's why he is, murdering possible heirs and contestants to the throne. One of them is the father and the brother of our heroine here. And he wants his grandson to become the next king. And that's why he is also looking for, good, how to say that?
prospects. A good wife.
No. Connections to powerful allies. And there is Sybil coming into the play as the spouse for his grandson, Duncan. So we have those two sides. There is Cora, who is a possible heiress to the throne and a very important chess figure. And then there is Sybil, who is a sister to a very strong ally, and yeah, the would-be queen of Alba. When Cora is forced to flee the murder scene of her family, she can take refuge with the family of the 8 line, and there she is meeting Macbeth, and which could have been just a normal kind of life where she is marrying Macbeth and they just be and do not intend to recover any rights to anything. It happens that all of that is spoiled on the night before her wedding. And I think
because
this
Cora is
trauma is
abducted.
just... Yeah, exactly. So she is forced to marry someone else. There is another branch of that 8 family who want the throne for themselves. And well, she is, as I just said, a chess figure. And yeah, so the first part of that book was really, really cruel and horrible in regards to what happens to her. How did you feel about that?
Well, I mean, we knew that it would be about the women in this book and not about the men. And usually what we read about the men is always, you know, who they kill, where they go to battles, whether they win or not. And from the women, we only hear about how many children they actually gave birth to, and maybe whether they were pretty or not. That's everything that we see.
Or if they found a monastery or something or whatever, if they were pious or something like that.
And here we have it because, I mean, that's a very interesting point in the Shakespearean play as well, because Lady Macbeth plays a role actually to make sure that Macbeth will become king. And so we have it here as well, that we have 2 very determined women who want to have a place in history in a way. And Cora wants this. She could have said very often, okay, now I have enough. Even she was abducted, had to marry a different man. She was raped more than once. She got a child from someone she didn't want to. She was waiting for Macbeth to come back to save her. And of course, it takes quite a while because he was going around Ireland trying to find people to get back to Scotland. And and still she was strong, but also, as everyone would be, vulnerable. And what we see in the first part of the book is really what you can do to a woman to break her. And but it doesn't happen. That's the thing. Whether we like her or not.
You see her at one point. Sorry. You see her at one point that she is struggling with the life she has to lead, but at the point where she has her son, she is fighting for that child, and she's doing everything in her power to keep him safe. And the revenge she wants for her family and for let's say the lost life or her lost life, it is simmering beneath the surface the whole time. Her focus changes here and there, but it's still there. And then when Macbeth returns, there is still, and I think it was several years actually,
5 years,
where they do not act upon anything in regards to revenge or taking the throne. So this is a very, very slow build-up.
But I think that's what she also said in the book. The reason why when after Macbeth came back and they tried to rebuild the country, so to say, because that was what he wanted. That's very important. He wanted the peace. He had no drive actually to become king. It's her. She wanted her line to be the royal line. She wanted her son in the future, because that's the thing as well. Nobody is talking about, okay, well, we are becoming like a king and queen now, and then next time it will be the other line as well. Both the Constantine line and the 8 line want their royal line to become the royal line, the only one. And she's the one doing that as well. She wants her son to become king after that as well. And Macbeth actually didn't want to do that. He wanted, I don't know, he wanted a peaceful life. He was fine to be some overseer or like some governor or whatever in this time for the area where he was. He didn't want to go out to West Scotland and just like, I don't know, kill everyone to become king.
Yeah, he came across as a kind of very educated and thoughtful person who wanted to, or who wanted his lands and his people to evolve and get better. Yeah, I really liked him in this regard.
Yeah,
I really
like
liked
that
him
as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you compare,
whereas I had problems with Cora because of the revenge she still had in her, or the wishes for that. She was never satisfied with anything, and she made everything difficult.
Yeah. No, I know exactly
what I was really annoyed with her.
Yeah. And we have that, so to say, with Cora. And if you go to Sybil, who is also not the nicest person, I think, she was a bit more pleasant
naive
than Cora in a way, but she was driven as well in her way. Like I think she had like nice husbands as well. Like this is, it's very interesting. In both situations, we have 2 women who are actually very unlikable, and the men in the story, they have to fulfill their destinies in a way. On the one hand, a Macbeth whose destiny is to, well, support his wife's claim, so to say, to become queen. And then on the other hand, you had like Sybil, who was, well, she knew that she would be queen, or that's why she married actually into this family. She knew what it would mean, that it means battle and it means a lot of bloodshed. And she goes in there, and she has, so to say, the husband or husbands in the future who are actually also trying to get the throne, but not as much as Malcolm wants them to do this at
no,
that
they are
time.
Weak. They are weak.
Yeah,
both brothers are weak. Yeah, they are weak because I think Malcolm did not teach them well and was not a good example. They wanted, they didn't aspire to be like him. Though I wouldn't say that Malcolm was a bad ruler, but the drive behind all those actions to become queen and to rule are in Sybil, because she had to flee her country. She had to give up everything. So she has a difficult past, and she wants everything for her future and the future for her children. And she sees that that this would be possible when she is marrying into that Constantine line. And Malcolm definitely sees the potential in her. And he is repeatedly telling her that she will be the one enabling her sons to be kings, the real kings, because he also saw that his grandsons were not, real fit kings.
Yeah, they were not strong enough. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So yeah,
it's actually the women in the background pulling the strings, and also pushing the guys forward, because we are in a time where they do not ride on the front of the army. So then they have this active part where they push the men, but then they have to stay back and wait and be passive when they go out and fight and try to claim what they want or what the women want. And yeah, so you especially see that with Cora, because she's frustrated when she's watching the battles and she doesn't understand why things are being decided the way they are. I mean, how would she know? How would she know? Yes, but on the other hand, she's a dominant and an acting person and not a reacting person. Whereas I think Sybil is more of the reacting kind. So she is observing a situation and then she's learning from it, and then she does things that propel something into a direction. But she is not going out there. She lets other people do those things.
But that's also the thing, I think, which is very strange, because you have this whole bloodshed. The book is full of bloodshed from the first page until the last one. And you always know that they will kill each other. There were loads of people that will be dying. And the women are like still pushing the men further and further, especially like Cora, pushing Macbeth further and further on his road to become king. And actually Sybil is not different as well, because when Duncan is dead, she goes to his brother, who will end up dead as well because of her. And then, she goes back to England and brings back, so to say, English troops into Scotland. And with it, which is a betrayal of Scotland in itself, and then just to make sure that one of her sons will become king in the future. It's like there is the feeling like they can never let go of it. It's not at one point that both of them say, okay, I had enough, I have lost my sons, I have lost my loved ones, I have lost my everything, and now it's time to step back, leave it. Both of them cannot do it. And
they can't. It's this kind of thing is bred into them. So they cannot do anything else. They are in positions, especially in those times back then, that they couldn't but go forward like this. So this was they had some kind of inbred, also religious view that they have a right to rule and a duty to rule and do everything in their power to make that happen. So you see that across Europe, in every royal family, in all those battles and wars for thrones and kingships. It's everywhere.
But usually we hear it only from the men's side. Or
No.
Where do we see that also in women?
Everywhere. They are raised to be like that. So if you read biographies about any princess, any queen, or even let's say duchesses or countesses, or even lower, so they have this in their blood. They are raised like that. They have their education is focused solely on that they have this sole focus on to raise their family, to raise it in power, to raise it in importance, to raise it in regards to faith. So they have it, all of them have it. So even if you would read a biography about, let's say, a princess who had a very, let's say, sad life, or she was treated horribly by her royal husband or whatever, and they do not cower, they do not leave and say, fuck off. They stay and they fight, especially for their children, because they know that person is gonna die someday, but I am the one who is able to prolong this line. And I will fight for my sons and they will have this throne after them.
Okay, so I mean, there you can see we have two different backgrounds. Claudia has all of these biographies and all of the historical knowledge that she needs to understand or see the characters a different way than I do. And although I saw this as a very feminist book as well, to write about these women that we usually never heard about, and also about, well, not shunning away from all of the negative things that happen to them and that they make happen as well.
So it's not glossed over. So there is no romanticizing anything in that story. So you really have the cruel and gross and disgusting and horrible details they had to go through. And that was what it was like. So it was so realistic. And there were no butterflies and roses.
Yeah.
And I was really relieved when she had this kind of harmony and peace with Macbeth, and also Sybil, that she had this kind of relationship with both her husbands. That was really nice. But everything around them, and also what happens to other women in that book, was just, that was the Middle Ages. And I mean, this was kind of not really Christianized Scotland. And I mean, this is the 11th century, and I don't want to live then.
No,
I would never step into a time machine and go back there as a woman.
It was very.
But on the other hand, it also was. It was also very realistic that these women did what they did and planned and acted the way they did, and had those background strings in their hands, because they had no other possibility to enact on their power. So that was fascinating as well. And this is, you see that throughout history. So women rule from the background, if they're not Elizabeth I, for example, but they rule from the background. They rule from their bedchambers, from their birthing chairs, from the nurseries. That's where they rule from. And that's where they have their power base, actually. That's my mind.
I mean, that's the thing, it's very realistic. For me, it was really hard to read at some points, but that it's good that the author did her research well, and that we did not get just one fact here and one fact there, and then we are having like a beautiful love story, and then somehow everyone gets killed, something like this. No, everything made sense in the way she showed it to us. But I still think, and that's what I can connect here now to Shakespeare, that in Shakespeare's play, we see that Lady Macbeth is persuading her husband to become the murderer of the king at that time, to become king. I want to say that I watched the 2015 version of Macbeth with Michael Fassbender and Marion Cotillard, and I watched it yesterday, and I'm still stunned by it in the way that it's a very good movie. I can recommend it to everyone to watch it. It's very close to the Shakespearean play, it also has the Shakespearean language. So if your English is not that good, you should be not watching this movie.
Or
I
maybe
guess,
use subtitles.
let's say
Did they have some?
50, sorry?
Did they have subtitles so you could just
No.
have subtitles? No?
No. So I guess 15% of what was said was lost on me, but I think I got it anyway. But there you see that she was the one pushing Macbeth to kill against his conscience, and he goes crazy after that, and he becomes the tyrant and the murderer of everyone that he trusted and that trusted him. And actually the son, so to say, of Malcolm, who is the son in this book of Duncan, who he killed, comes back from England with English troops, and everyone is like, my God, finally someone is coming to deliver us from this person. And I must say that still, I think Joanna Courtney, although we have all of the background stories of both of the women and we understand why they go where they go, still she has it that Cora Macduff is the one that's pushing her husband. And I have always the feeling in both, like in the Shakespearean play and also in this book, you always think like he should not have died in this, you know. It was not his fault. It was not even what he wanted. It was not what he strove for. It was like, it's because he loved and he knew that it was her right, and it was, I mean, a good thing to do if you wanted to unite the country as well, because you had the West against the East in a way as well at that time. But as you see in the movie, she is stunned by what she did. She made him kill the king, and then he goes crazy and kills everyone else because she sees that he's crumbling. She's the one that always says, you know, what's done is done. And he's like, but I cannot forget it. And you have this as well in the book in a way. She's like, okay, we have been passed through all of this, which is true, but we have to look forward, so to say, and always push. And I must say that this was something I felt very, very uncomfortable about, because you could see that although the men had to go there, none of them really wanted. And even if you know that the women rule in the background, you see, you know, what actually happens to them if they do it, and they still choose it. It was hard for me to relate, although I understand it's maybe the best way to go forward, because otherwise there would have been I don't know, peasants, right, in the end, if they would not go this way. Yeah,
well, they still have their lordships about the lands they inherited anyway, so that wouldn't have been that much of a problem. But if you choose the direction of a war and try to usurp the throne, or keep it and kill off the contestants, then of course you can lose everything if you lose that battle. That's for sure. I think, well, I wouldn't say that Macbeth was weak in that regard. He still could have said no and declined and just kept the way they lived up. Yeah. So, I mean, they had what was it, a 17-year long, it was 17 years they ruled over Alba, and it was quite a peaceful time. So they even went to Rome and had this pilgrimage, and so that means they were safe in their power and their position. And it was only because the others contested that rule that they had to act. And I think it was not necessarily only Cora. It was only it was also the wish of Macbeth, and also that, well, his kingship, that he wanted to save it for his successor, and not to be, the Constantines to be the successors. And I think this is just a normal behavior, and it was the early medieval ages, and the men just went to fight. That's what they were there for. That was their job. It was their job. They were warriors. Yeah, Macbeth would never have been a normal farmer or anything, because he was way too high in the hierarchy, and he had too many, let's say, battles and successes under his belt to just, get lost in history somewhere. And that was what you did. You tried to keep that line safe and for your successor. So I wouldn't say it was only Cora pushing it. It was also his belief that he had to do it. The same as Sybil and her sons knew they had to do something if they wanted a throne. And then you have all those power plays with England as well. And it was about to happen. And it didn't end after that either. So
no, of course not. But that's the thing that you get actually in the book. You in the end of the book, you see everyone important is dead, or everyone who was cared about was dead. And then you thought like, okay, and the women will survive, and they will go on. It's just like that. And
that scene when they are drinking whiskey, that was fun.
That was very fun.
It's so ridiculous, but it's fun. Yeah, I mean, they both acknowledged each other's character and what they did in their lives.
Yeah.
So
but
they're
also
not really enemies, I think, because you just had to do that to stay alive.
Yeah, but I mean, okay, but this is also a nice glossing over in the end. Okay, you had all of the violence, and yet it's just like everyone has killed each other, and it's like you just want to put in the end, like, it was the question: was it worth it for both of the women? Was it worth it actually to do this, to lose your sons, to lose your husbands, to lose everything, and bring them to the grave? Yeah. And in the end, you have these women drinking whiskey and contemplating about their lives. And it's for me, it was like, in the end, really, I read the book and I was like, okay, and it's going on like this for how many centuries, I don't know. And you were just like exhausted after one book, after one story of this. And that's maybe it's now the question that we can do in the end. How did we feel about the book? Was it worth reading? What do we think about it? You go first.
Well, I think it was a good book. I will definitely read the next one about Ophelia. And I think that Joanna Courtney is a good writer and a very good researcher. So she really did her homework. I liked, as I said before, I liked the part in the back of the book where she's talking about that and all the historical stuff. And I even did more research about that myself. So that was so intriguing and so interesting that I think, the book made me do that. And so this is a good thing if she is, creating that interest and excitement into that story. So I think it is a good book. For me, it had, so let's say the middle part was a bit lagging. So it was hard, not because of the content, but it was just like, can we get to a point here, please? And yeah, but that's life. So that those were those intermediate years, and well, of course they were like that. But yeah, so the ending did redeem itself then again. And yeah, it was a good book. I think, I can't remember, I think I gave it 3 or 4 stars on Goodreads. I'm not sure now. Yeah, but I will definitely read Ophelia. And I also would like to have a look into this other trilogy about those queens and women she wrote about.
Do you know what is the name of the other trilogy?
Well, I will check that, and you can.
Of course, as you can see, this is live. This was not prepared.
Are we ever prepared?
I enjoyed the book as well. I did not have a problem that much with, I don't know, a part that could be dragging for me, because I know it's historical fiction. I know there will always be parts that need to be there, and where not everything is happening. It's like where no action is, where, as you said, intermediate years, which we needed to see that there were also other years, not just killing, bloodshed, and rape and murder. And so I did not have that problem. Actually, for me, it was really, the topic was really hard to read about, but that's because I'm a woman. I think a man would read this a completely different way. And it's also that, as everyone knows, I'm not a mother, and I'm always like, when you see that, you know, these women are not just fighting for their own claim, it's always about the next generation as well. Understandable, everything understandable in the context, but for me it was like, oh god, we are talking about children again, and we are talking about this, oh my god, he needs to be king in the future. It was the child is barely 5 years old, doesn't even know what he wants in life, whatever, but everyone is pushing, you know, into this direction already. And
Yeah.
I also I really felt for the men in the story.
Usually it's the other way around, right?
It's like, yeah, usually it's the other way around. And but I like that Joanna Courtney, you know, she kept to the characters that she created or what she researched about them. She did not give me, or us as readers, like a glossed over version of these women. And that's what I liked. Even if I disliked them, I don't need to like characters to see what is a good story. Or in this case, it's also because it has a historical connection. So these people, not everyone, but most of these people have lived, and we know about them, or there are notes in books or whatever left about them. So that was my feeling, was it was worth reading this. It's also worth as a Shakespearean retelling, if you want so, compared to what the original is, because that's what Joanna Courtney says as well in the end of the book, why she went with this version of Macbeth and the story and not the Shakespearean version, which I found very, very interesting. And because as I said, Macbeth is cruel in the film, in the story from Shakespeare, and here we actually get a nice guy.
Totally different point.
Yeah.
Well, you will never know for sure, of course,
No,
because the sources are what they are. Yeah, but Shakespeare's Macbeth is just a child of its time. So there are about 500 years between the real Macbeth and Shakespeare, and definitely a totally different point of view on the happenings at that time, and a different view on gender roles and what is to be expected from women and men. So yeah, of course, he changed that up a bit.
Yeah. What I also liked in general, because that's what the topic is also about, is Scottish history. I learned a lot about Scottish history through that book. And because I'm a fan of that anyway, which was also one of the reasons why I was so happy when I received this in my February Hal novel purchase that I had for my Bookbox Fever 21. Because this is exactly something I wanted to get to know more about. And so for me, this was like facts together with fiction and the huge drama that happened. So what else can I ask for? But I must say, I want to read the other two as well. Maybe you will see them here as buddy reads in the future, in this year. But I really, really hope, although this is like tragedy and drama always with Shakespeare, I really hope a bit less bloodshed would be great, and just a bit less of cruelty would be great as well.
Let's see.
I can just say again, watch the movie, but only if you're not faint-hearted. It is the cinematography is wonderful, but it's heavy stuff. It's heavy stuff. Okay. So did you have a look how the other trilogy is called? Like,
the other trilogy is called Queens of Conquest, and there are 3 books, and it's the first is called The Chosen Queen, about Edith. I think in history she was called Edgitha. And then The Constant Queen, let me check.
Is it also Britannia or is it Europe?
Yeah. So it's all about conquering England. And then you have The Conqueror's Queen, about William's wife. Yeah, I really would like to read them. And what I wanted to ask is, did you start that History of Scotland book yet?
I did.
The one you purchased? And how is it?
Well, I'm not that far yet.
Okay. I was looking into some myself, and yeah, but yours looked the most promising, actually.
Yeah. It's like I just went through the geological times that were important for Scotland, and the Romans building Hadrian's Wall and thinking, oh, Picts, no, never mind, we leave it. That's
yeah. So the really early times that are so interesting. I really would like to read more about that. Yeah.
I will. You will find this in a wrap up in the next 2 months, and then I will tell you, whether it's, if you want to read Blood Queen, should you read Scottish history before, or is it enough? I think we all can get from this book from Joanna Courtney. She gave us enough information that we needed to understand the book, and I think that's how we can wrap it up. Can we?
Yeah. I think so too. Yeah.
Okay, so Blood Queen, Joanna Courtney. If you want to read it, be a tough girl or a tough guy. And with that, we can say bye-bye.
Bye.
Until next time.
Tough guy.